Picture a garage filled with the rarest cars on Earth, a hangar housing gold-plated jets, and a port with mega yachts that make cruise ships look tiny. Now imagine all that belongs to one man. That's the world of Kim Jong-un we're about to explore. Kim Jong-un ain't your average leader. He's the supreme ruler of North Korea, a country where most people struggle to get by. But Kim, he's living large. We're talking billions in luxury while his people barely have enough to eat. You might think you know about rich folks, but Kim's on another level. We're going to show you stuff that'll blow your mind. From his secret car collection to his private islands, Kim's living a life most people can't even dream of. And the craziest part, he's doing it all while running one of the most isolated countries in the world. Kim's luxury car collection. We're talking over 100 high-end vehicles, mostly European brands. But these ain't just any fancy cars. Kim's collection is packed with rare and custom-made rides you can't just walk into a dealership and buy. One of the standouts in his garage, a Mercedes-Benz 600 luxury sedan. This ain't your average Benz. It's a top-of-the-line model that screams, "I'm the boss." But that's just the beginning. In 2018, Kim got his hands on something even more exclusive. 2 armored Mercedes Maybach S600S rolled into his collection. Each one of these bad boys is worth $500,000. That's right, we're talking about a cool million for just 2 cars. But here's the kicker. These weren't exactly bought through legal channels. Kim used an illicit shipping network to get these beauties, breaking international sanctions. But when you're the supreme leader, you don't sweat the small stuff like international law, right? And it ain't just Mercedes in Kim's garage. He's got a thing for Rolls-Royce too. Imagine the smoothest, most luxurious ride, then multiply that by 10. That's what Kim's rolling in. You might wonder, how much is all this worth? Well, we're talking millions here, folks. With all those rare models and custom touches, Kim's car collection is worth more than most of us will ever see. But it ain't just about the price tag for Kim. It's about the exclusivity. He's got cars in his collection that most people have never even heard of, let alone seen in person. We're talking vehicles so rare, they make a Bugatti look common. And get this, Kim's love for luxury rides ain't new. It runs in the family. His former personal chef, Kenji Fujimoto, spilled the tea about Kim's taste. The guy's been into Mercedes since way back. Oh, and he's got a thing for Johnny Walker whiskey too. Guess when you're living the supreme life, you gotta have the supreme drinks to go with it. Sailing in supreme style. Let's start with the crown jewel of Kim's maritime collection, a yacht called the Princess. This ain't your average rich guy's boat. We're talking about a floating palace worth a cool $7 million. But that's just the price tag. What's inside is where things get wild. Imagine cruising around with a full-size swimming pool on deck and feeling sporty. No problem, there's a basketball court right there. And when it's time to relax, you've got multiple jacuzzi tubs to choose from. The inside? It's decked out with the fanciest furniture money can buy. You might think, is this that special for a world leader? Let's compare it to other big shots sailing around. Take Russian President Vladimir Putin's yacht, Graceful. It also has some sweet features like a helipad, pool and spa. But Kim's Princess? It's right up there with the best of them. But here's the thing. Kim ain't just using these yachts for fun and games. No, he's turning them into floating diplomatic centers. He's hosted some important meetings on these boats. It's like, come see my awesome yacht, and oh yeah, let's talk some politics while we're at it. And get this, Kim's yacht collection is more than just the Princess. He's got a whole fleet of these floating mansions. We don't know how many, but you can bet it's more than most people will ever set foot on. Now you might wonder why a guy who runs a struggling country would spend so much on boats. Well, it's all about image. Kim's all about showing off his wealth and power. And what better way to do that than with a bunch of super expensive yachts? Sometimes North Korean TV even shows off Kim's boats. They're like, look at our leader's awesome yachts, aren't we doing great? It's a weird flex, but you can do what you want when you're the supreme leader. So, next time you're daydreaming about winning the lottery and buying a yacht, just remember, Kim's probably chilling on a boat that makes your dream yacht look like a rubber ducky. That's the kind of over-the-top luxury we're dealing with here. Ruling the skies. This man got a whole squad of choppers for zipping around North Korea. These ain't your average whirly-birds, though. They're used for all sorts of stuff. Quick trips around the country, checking out military sites, and even emergency response. Imagine calling a helicopter instead of an Uber when you're running late. But the real high flyers in Kim's fleet are his private jets. We're talking about planes that make first class look like cheap seats. Kim's got a few of these flying palaces, but the star of the show is his IL-62. This Soviet-made jet isn't just any old plane, it's been tricked out to be fit for a supreme leader. Step inside Kim's IL-62 and you'll feel like you've entered a 5-star hotel that just happens to fly. The seats aren't just comfy, they're downright luxurious. There's space for Kim to hold meetings with his top officials while cruising at 30,000 feet. And you can bet there's some fancy tech on board too. We're talking state-of-the-art communication systems that keep Kim connected wherever he's flying. But it ain't all business on board. Kim's jet might even have personal entertainment systems. Even supreme leaders must catch up on their favorite shows during long flights. Now, how does Kim get away with all this luxury air travel when North Korea is under all those international sanctions? Well, it turns out Kim's got some tricks up his sleeve. He's got a whole network of shady dealers and secret routes to keep his air fleet stocked and flying. But flying in style is only half the story. When you're a controversial world leader, security is a big deal, and Kim takes his air security seriously. We're talking next-level paranoia here. Some reports say Kim uses multiple decoy aircraft when he travels. It's like a high-stakes shell game in the sky. Guess which plane the supreme leader's on. And it's not just about keeping Kim safe. These luxury jets and helicopters are all about showing off too. When Kim flies in for a big diplomatic meeting, you better believe he's making an entrance. It's all part of the image he's trying to project. Powerful, wealthy, and not to be messed with. Take Kim's trip to Singapore for his big summit with Trump. He rolled up in his private jet, nicknamed Chami 1. It's named after a hawk, which is fitting for a guy who likes to think of himself as powerful and intimidating. A day in the life of the supreme leader. Imagine having top officials to wake you from bed. Kim's day starts early, but not with your average alarm clock. No, he's got a team of top officials ready to brief him on everything going on in North Korea and around the world. It's like having your own personal news team, but it's way more intense. To his morning briefing, Kim doesn't just sit around in his office. He's all about that on-the-spot guidance life. This ain't just some made-up thing. It's a tradition his grandpa Kim Il-sung started. Kim Jong-un travels around North Korea, checking out military bases, factories, farms, and schools. He's not just looking, though. He's giving out orders and instructions like he's the boss of everything, which I guess he kinda is, but it only works and plays for Kim. When he's not busy being the supreme leader, he's living it up. According to Kenji Fujimoto, Kim is into riding horses, riding jet skis, and having fun together. Sounds like a pretty sweet gig. And when it comes to his downtime, Kim doesn't skimp on the fancy stuff. He's known to enjoy some Johnny Walker whiskey and puff on Yves Saint Laurent cigarettes. That's right, even his smoke is designer. Now, a guy who runs a whole country would be too busy for parties, but Kim? He's all about that nightlife. Kenji Fujimoto spilled the tea, saying Kim enjoys drinking and partying all night like his father. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree when it comes to living large. But here's where things get crazy. While Kim's living this ultra-luxe life, most people in North Korea are struggling just to get by. We're talking about food shortages and not having basic stuff that we take for granted. It's like Kim's living in a whole different world from the rest of his country. Sometimes Kim tries to show he cares about his people. Like there was this time when an apartment building collapsed in Pyongyang, and Kim was reportedly very upset about it. But then he goes back to his mansions and fancy cars, so it's hard to tell how much he really cares. And get this, while Kim can buy all these expensive foreign goods, most North Koreans can't. There are all these international sanctions that make it hard for regular folks to get anything from outside the country. But Kim, he finds ways around all that. Palaces fit for a supreme leader. If 17 mansion belongs to you like this man owns it, how would that make you feel? Yeah, you heard that right. 17 whole palaces. That's more houses than most people have pairs of shoes. These ain't just any old mansions. We're talking about some seriously luxurious digs that'd make even the richest billionaires jealous. And they're all decked out with top-notch security to keep the supreme leader safe and sound. One of Kim's main cribs is the Ryongsong residence in Pyongyang. This place is like a 5-star resort, but way more exclusive. It has a 50-meter indoor swimming pool, multiple banquet halls, and underground bunkers to protect against attacks. When you're the supreme leader, you have to be ready for anything. But the Ryongsong residence ain't just about luxury, it's also a mix of old and new. Kim's palaces blend traditional Korean architecture with modern designs. It's like he's saying, yeah, I'm all about that Korean heritage, but I also like my high-tech gadgets. Now you might be thinking, okay, but how safe are these places? Well, let me tell you, Kim ain't taking any chances. His palaces are locked down tighter than Fort Knox. We're talking electric fences, minefields, and enough soldiers to form a small army guarding the place. Plus, there's all kinds of high-tech surveillance stuff keeping an eye on things 24/7. But wait, there's more. Kim's got his own private island too. And it ain't just any island. Dennis Rodman, who's actually been there, said it's like Hawaii, Ibiza, or Aruba. But he's the only one that lives there. Imagine having a whole tropical paradise all to yourself. That's the kind of luxury Kim's living in. And those are just the places we know about. Kim's also got a bunch of secret mansions hidden away in the countryside. These are like his getaway spots, surrounded by all that natural beauty North Korea's famous for. But here's the thing. Kim's palaces are about more than just having a nice place to crash. No, they're symbols of his power and wealth. It's like he's showing off to his people and the rest of the world, saying, "Look how rich and powerful I am." Billion-dollar shopping sprees. How did this man purchase a good taste? First up, his watch collection. Kim's got a thing for Swiss watches, and we're not talking about your average Rolex. He's got timepieces worth hundreds of thousands of dollars each, but that's nothing compared to his taste in booze. Kim loves his fancy liquor, especially cognac. He once spent $700,000 on Hennessy in a single year. That's enough to buy a mansion in some parts of the world, but for Kim, it's just his drink budget. But it ain't just about what he drinks. Kim also has some wild taste in food. He's known to import thousands of dollars worth of fresh lobster and other luxury foods every year. And get this, he's even got his own private food taster to make sure his meals haven't poisoned. Talk about living in fear, right? Now you might think all this luxury stuff is just for Kim, but no, he likes to spread the wealth. To his inner circle, at least. Kim is known for giving out luxury gifts to his top officials. We're talking designer watches, fancy cars, and even houses. It's like he's running his own version of Oprah's favorite things, but way more expensive and way more illegal. But here's where things get really wild. Kim's spending habits ain't just about personal luxury. He's also dumping billions into North Korea's nuclear program. While his people are struggling to get by, Kim's pouring money into missiles and bombs. It's like he's playing a real-life version of a war game, but with actual nukes. And all this spending, it's having a huge impact on North Korea's economy. While Kim's living it up, most North Koreans are struggling to get enough food. The country's economy is in rough shape, partly because of international sanctions, but also because so much money is going to Kim's luxuries and his military programs. Kim's wife, Ri Sol-ju, ain't exactly helping the situation either. She was once spotted carrying a Dior handbag worth almost $1,600. That might not sound like much compared to Kim's other purchases, but get this, it's about what the average North Korean makes in a year. So while Kim and his inner circle are living large, the rest of the country is suffering. It's a crazy contrast that shows just how different life is at the top in North Korea. Kim's billion-dollar shopping sprees ain't just about him having nice things. They're a symbol of how much power he has and how little he seems to care about his people's struggles. Comparing fortunes, pinning down exactly how much Kim's worth ain't easy. North Korea ain't exactly open with its financial records, but experts have tried to figure it out, and the numbers are mind-blowing. Some estimates put Kim's wealth in the billions of dollars. That's right, billions with a B. But here's where things get wild. Kim's running a country that's struggling big time. Most North Koreans are barely getting by. So how's Kim keeping all this cash flowing? Well, he's got some tricks up his sleeve. See, there are all these international sanctions meant to stop Kim from getting his hands on luxury goods and cash. But Kim, he's found ways around them. He's got this whole network of illegal trade and smuggling operations. It's like he's running his own black market empire. Kim's using everything from fake companies to secret bank accounts to keep the money coming in. He's even got people buying stuff for him in other countries and sneaking it into North Korea. It's like a game of hide and seek, but with billions of dollars at stake. Now let's talk about how Kim's fortune compares to other world leaders. It's hard to say for sure, but some experts think Kim might be one of the richest leaders out there. We're talking richer than a lot of presidents and prime ministers of much bigger countries. But here's the thing, a lot of Kim's wealth might be hidden. There are theories that he's got secret accounts and investments all over the world. It's like he's playing a real-life game of Monopoly, but with actual countries and real money. Some people think Kim's got way more money than we even know about, like billions more. It's crazy to think about, right? This guy's running one of the poorest countries in the world, but he might be sitting on a fortune that'd make some billionaires jealous. And get this, all this wealth, it's a family thing. Kim inherited a lot of it from his dad and grandpa. It's like they've been building this secret fortune for generations. Talk about family heirlooms, right? But here's where it gets really messed up. While Kim's living like a king, most North Koreans are struggling just to get enough food. The contrast is insane. It's like Kim's living in a whole different world from the rest of his country. Rare treasures in Kim's vault. When you're the supreme leader of North Korea, you can get your hands on some pretty wild things. We're talking about rare and valuable items most museums would kill to have. Let's start with his dad's old collection. Kim Jong-il was known for his love of rare wines and luxury cars, but get this, he also had a video library with nearly every game Michael Jordan played for the Chicago Bulls. Talk about a superfan, right? And you can bet Kim Jong-un inherited all of that. But Kim's not just sitting on his dad's old stuff. He's building his own collection of rare and expensive items. We're talking about things that most people have never even heard of, let alone seen in person. Now, how is Kim getting all this stuff when North Korea's under all these international sanctions? Well, it turns out Kim's got some tricks up his sleeve. He's using these elaborate smuggling networks and front companies to get luxury goods from overseas. It's like he's playing a real-life game of smuggler, but with billions of dollars at stake. And it ain't just fancy cars and expensive booze Kim's after. He's also collecting historical and culturally significant items. We're talking about artifacts and memorabilia tied to North Korea's history and leadership. It's like he's building his own private museum of North Korean history. But here's where things get really wild. Kim's collection goes beyond just physical items. He's got a taste for the finer things in life, including some costly alcohol. Diplomatic sources have spilled the tea that Kim's getting high-end personal care items smuggled into the country too. I guess even supreme leaders need their fancy face creams, right? Now, we are still determining exactly what's in Kim's secret vaults, but based on what we know, it must be some pretty incredible stuff. We're talking about items that most people will never even see, let alone own. And here's the craziest part. All this collecting and smuggling is happening while most North Koreans are struggling just to get by. It's like Kim's living in his own private luxury world, surrounded by all these rare treasures while his people can barely afford basic necessities. Luxury under lockdown, playing a global game of hide and seek, but with luxury goods. Kim's got this whole network of fake companies set up. These aren't your average businesses. No, they're fronts for smuggling in all kinds of fancy stuff. We're talking about everything from those Mercedes Maybach S600S to top-shelf liquor. But it ain't just about setting up fake companies. Kim's also got some tricks when it comes to travel. Get this, Kim and his dad used to use fake Brazilian passports to get around. Yeah, you heard that right. Kim was going by the name Joseph Puig back in the day. It's like something out of a spy movie, but it's real life. And Kim's smuggling game is next level. Remember those armored Mercedes we talked about earlier? They didn't just drive themselves into North Korea. Kim's got this whole illicit shipping network to get stuff like that in. It's crazy to think about. These super expensive cars sneaking into the country like they're in some kind of high-stakes car race. But it ain't just about the big stuff. Kim's also got a taste for the finer things in life, and he ain't letting sanctions stop him from getting them. His former chef spilled the beans about Kim's love for Yves Saint Laurent cigarettes and Johnny Walker whiskey. I guess even supreme leaders need their creature comforts, right? Now, you might be wondering how Kim's paying for all this. Well, it turns out North Korea's got some pretty shady ways of making money. We're talking about everything from selling weapons to drug trafficking. It's like Kim's running a whole underground economy just to keep his luxury lifestyle going. And get this, Kim's even using his country's diplomats to help him get his hands on the good stuff. Those diplomatic pouches, they need to carry official papers. Nope, they're bringing in all kinds of luxury items that Kim needs help getting through normal channels. But here's the wildest part. While Kim's living it up with all these smuggled goods, most North Koreans are struggling just to get by. It's like there are two different North Koreas. One for Kim and his buddies and one for everyone else. The Supreme Security Detail. A huge bodyguard is an understatement. This isn't your average bodyguard situation. We're talking about a whole army dedicated to keeping Kim safe. Kim's security is so intense that it makes Fort Knox look like a playground. He's got this thing called the Supreme Guard Command watching his back 24/7. These guys aren't just random dudes in suits. They're elite soldiers trained to take a bullet for Kim if they have to. But it's not just about having tough guys around. Kim's security team is using some serious high-tech stuff too. They've got surveillance equipment that'd make James Bond jealous. Cameras, motion sensors, you name it. If someone even thinks about getting close to Kim, these guys know. And get this, Kim's security doesn't just protect him. They're watching over all his fancy stuff too. Those million-dollar cars and yachts we talked about. Yeah, they've got their special guards. It's like Kim's got a whole separate police force just for his toys. You might be thinking, is all this security necessary? Well, it turns out it is. Back in 2012, someone tried to take Kim out. They hid a machine gun under a tree on a route Kim was supposed to take. But Kim's security team sniffed it out before anything could happen. That's some next-level protection right there. But that ain't even the craziest part. In 2017, North Korea said the CIA and South Korea's intelligence service tried to kill Kim with some kind of poison. We're talking about a biochemical weapon that was supposed to be radioactive and nano-poisonous. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Kim's security is so tight that it even affects how he travels. When he goes somewhere, it's like a whole military operation. Multiple decoy vehicles, secret routes, the works. It's like trying to guess which cup the ball is under, but with armored cars. But even with all this security, Kim still had some close calls. In 2013, South Korean intelligence thought some people inside North Korea were trying to get rid of Kim. It's like he can't even trust his people sometimes. Gifts fit for a supreme leader. When you're the supreme leader, you don't just get socks for your birthday. No, Kim's gift game is on a whole other level. Let's talk about some of the craziest gifts Kim's gotten. We're not talking about your average present here. These are the kind of gifts that'd make even billionaires jealous. One of the wildest gifts Kim's ever received was a car from Russian President Vladimir Putin. But this isn't just any car. We're talking about a luxury ride worth more than most people's houses. Putin gave Kim this sweet ride in February 2024. It's like the ultimate thanks for being my friend present. But Kim ain't just on the receiving end. He's also big on giving gifts, especially to his inner circle. We're talking about designer watches, fancy cars and houses. It's like Kim's running his version of Oprah's favorite things, but way more expensive and way more illegal. You might be thinking, what's the big deal about some gifts? Well, in Kim's world, these ain't just presents. They're like chess moves in a big diplomatic game. When Kim gives or gets a gift, it's not just about the thing itself. It's about showing off power, building relationships, and sometimes even breaking a few international laws. Speaking of breaking laws, let's talk about those Mercedes Maybach S600S we mentioned earlier. These cars weren't just bought at a dealership. No, Kim had to use this whole illicit shipping network to get his hands on them. Each one of these bad boys is worth $500,000. That's right, we're talking a cool million for just 2 cars, and they were all smuggled in, breaking every international sanction out there. But it ain't just cars. Kim's wife, Ri Sol-ju, was once spotted with a Dior handbag worth almost $1,600. That might not sound like much compared to Kim's other stuff, but get this. It's about what the average North Korean makes in a year. Talk about a fancy accessory. And the gifts ain't just for Kim and his family. He's also big on giving presents to other world leaders. It's like his saying, hey, let's be friends, or at least don't mess with me. These gifts can be anything from rare artwork to exotic animals. Yeah, you heard that right. Kim's out here gifting tigers and stuff like it's no big deal. But here's the thing about all these gifts. They're causing some serious drama on the world stage. Many countries are mad about Kim getting all this luxury stuff, while North Korea is under sanctions. It's like he's throwing a big party and the rest of the world wasn't invited. The cost of luxury. While Kim's living it up with fancy cars and billion-dollar shopping sprees, most North Koreans need help to get by. It's like there are 2 different countries, one for Kim and his buddies and one for everyone else. Kim's lavish lifestyle is costing North Korea big time. All that money he's spending on luxury goods, that could help regular folks. Instead, it's all about keeping Kim happy. The contrast between Kim's wealth and North Korea's poverty is insane. We're talking about a country where people are struggling to get enough food, but Kim's got 17 luxury palaces. It's like he's living on a different planet from the rest of his country. And it ain't just about Kim spending money on himself. His nuclear program is eating up a huge chunk of North Korea's resources too. While people are going hungry, Kim's pouring cash into missiles and bombs. It's like he's playing a real-life game of Risk, but with actual nukes. All this spending is having a massive impact on North Korea's economy. The country's in rough shape, partly because of international sanctions, but also because so much money is going to Kim's luxuries and his military programs. Kim's trying to have it both ways with his Byongjin strategy. He wants to develop the economy and build up the military simultaneously, but you can't have your cake and eat it too, especially when you're spending millions on fancy watches and cognac. The rest of the world ain't too happy about Kim's spending habits either. All these luxury purchases are breaking international sanctions big time. It's like Kim's giving the middle finger to the whole world, saying, I'll buy what I want when I want. Some countries are getting really mad about Kim getting all this luxury stuff while North Korea's under sanctions. They're saying it's not fair that Kim gets to live like a king while his people suffer. It's causing some serious drama on the world stage. But Kim doesn't seem to care what anyone thinks. He's still finding ways to get his hands on whatever he wants, sanctions or no sanctions. It's like he's running his own personal black market, just to keep his luxury lifestyle going. All this luxury is coming at a huge cost to North Korea's people. While Kim's chilling in his mansions and cruising in his yachts, most North Koreans are barely getting by. The gap between the rich and poor in North Korea is off the charts. Kim's spending habits are making it really hard for North Korea to develop its economy. All that money could be going into things like agriculture or infrastructure. Instead, it's being used to buy gold-plated toilets or whatever else Kim fancies. The craziest part, Kim is actually promoting a consumer culture in North Korea. He's building stuff like amusement parks and ski resorts. Who gets to use them? Not the average North Korean, that's for sure. It's all for Kim and his inner circle, image and reality. The North Korean leader is living like a king, but how's he pulling it off without his people getting mad? That's where things get really interesting. See, Kim's not just living large, he's crafting this whole image to make himself look like some kind of superhero to North Koreans. In North Korea, Kim is not just the leader, he's like a god. The propaganda machine is working overtime to make sure everyone sees him as this all-powerful, larger-than-life figure. They're not just showing off his fancy cars and big houses. No, they're painting a picture of a guy who's got it all and can do it all. State media always talks about Kim giving on-the-spot guidance at factories, farms and military bases. It's like he's an expert on everything. One day he's telling farmers how to grow better crops. The next, he's schooling scientists on rocket science. It's wild. But here's the thing. All this showing off ain't just about making Kim look cool. It's about making North Koreans believe their country's doing great. Like, look at our leader living it up. We must be doing something right. Now, you might think people would be mad seeing Kim living large while they're struggling, but the propaganda's so intense, a lot of North Koreans actually believe Kim deserves all this luxury. They're told he's working super hard for the country, so of course he should have the best of everything. Kim's even got this whole thing going, and he tries to look like his grandpa, Kim Il-sung. Same haircut, same clothes, same way of talking to people. It's like he's trying to bring back the good old days when North Korea was doing better. But it ain't all about showing off. Sometimes Kim's got to pretend he cares about regular folks too. One time, a building collapsed in Pyongyang and Kim was upset about it. It's his way of saying, see, I care about you guys. The craziest part, while Kim's living it up with imported whiskey and fancy smokes, most North Koreans can't even get basic stuff from outside the country. But Kim's propaganda machine's so good, a lot of people don't even know what they're missing. So yeah, Kim's living this insane luxury life, but he's got a whole system set up to make it look normal, even necessary. It's like he's the star of his own reality show, but one where he gets to control everything people see and hear. That's how Kim's keeping his luxury life going without causing a riot. It's all about controlling the image, and Kim's got that down to an art.